it over to Erica so she can take us through part 2 of infographics. And just quickly, the spreadsheet that I showed you guys yesterday, does everyone have the entire Google folder downloaded? Do you guys know where to find that? It's, again, it's in this folder.
ASCJ 200 examples. And there's a sheet that's called resources for data. So, and we've listed kind of what each source gives you depending on what you guys are interested in. So there's journalism, there's LGBT issues, a lot of demographics and economy, stats. So look through that and see if any of that is helpful.
Yeah, we're just trying to help you guys get started and giving you ideas. But, I mean, there's tons of stuff out there. I just don't want you guys getting lost in the weeds. That's where we're trying to really help you. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to jump into some other ways of looking at infographics today. Some of the stuff I think you guys are going to find is easier than what we were showing you last week. But the good news is all of you guys did an incredible job last week. I was watching from the back and everyone was keeping up in Illustrator. So you guys are way ahead of the game. So I'm super excited to see what you come up with.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you guys some options that can save you some time. I know it was probably a little overwhelming to think you guys have to create all those charts. So I'm going to pull up this tool that we use a lot here as well, and it's called Mphograph. So it's infogr.am. And basically it's this tool where you can create charts and graphs right in it by just inputting data from Excel. So if you guys want to create an account, go for it. I'll show you a little bit. So they have, you can also go here to get ideas for types of charts that you could create, but they have bar graphs, column graphs, pie charts, line graphs. You can think about, they have pictorial graphs. You can use like little people, hierarchy, pyramid, stuff like that. It's pretty easy to use. All you do is click on what kind of graph you want, and when you double click on the graph you can input. It's just like an Excel sheet, and you guys can input the data and pull this graph into Illustrator if you want, and that would be as simple as taking a screenshot of it and pulling it straight into Illustrator. So that's another tool that you guys can use. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you want, there is a tutorial on our website for Infograph. Sorry, getting started. So feel free to check that out. So I'm going to go over a couple of assets that you can pull if you want to make something more customized. I'm going to show you how to pull assets from Adobe Creative Cloud. So as part of your subscription, you have access to a bunch of vector files, a bunch of things that other designers have created that are just free for use. So if you guys want to go ahead and open up Illustrator, and we'll go ahead and create a new file. So I'm going to make just one artboard and just give it, that's fine, 900 pixels by 600 pixels. It doesn't matter, whatever you guys want to make the size. And then you'll have an artboard. There's an artboard icon over here, which is this little icon right here, and it allows you to adjust the size of your artboard. So at any time you want to change the size, like you're thinking, oh, actually now I want it to be more vertical, you can do that at any time by going into this artboard tool right here. And what it allows you to do is drag the handles up and down, so now I can make it longer. So if you're telling a story and you need to keep adjusting the artboard, that's how you would do it. You would just come in here, drag the artboard down further, and you can also set the width and height here if you have a specific height and width that you want it to be set to. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? Okay. So if you have the Creative Cloud icon up here, you can just pull it up. I think on a PC you actually have to, I'm not quite sure what it is. I think you have to open up Creative Cloud. Does anyone have issues seeing? Yeah.
If you're not finding it, let me know.
So if you guys all want to open it up and go into the Assets tab, what's really cool is you can go ahead and just search within these market assets. So let's say I want a person icon, like I'm going to do a pictorial graph, right? If I type in people, or maybe I want to type in person. Let me type in person. I get a bunch of these icons. So notice there's like a bunch of variety of different things that people have created. These are very interesting. So let's say I want this one. I'm going to use this one in my infographic. All I have to do is click on this little download cloud and save it to a library. So what I would do is I would create a library. I would create like an infographic library. And then once I've created that library, I can go ahead and add it to my infographic library. So why don't you guys try adding an asset to one of your libraries? Yeah, pick anything you want. You can search whatever you want. So then once you've saved an asset to a library, when you go to Illustrator, you will find this libraries icon, which is basically the Creative Cloud icon. If you don't see this icon, just go to Window and go to Libraries, and that should open this up. No, so all you do is download it and add it to a library. And then when you're in Illustrator, you'll see all of your libraries should show up here. And if you click on your infographic library, now that graphic that you downloaded should be in your graphics library. Is everyone getting that far? Is everyone able to save an asset?
If anyone's using the Adobe trial, you're not going to have access to the assets. That's another reason why it's really important for us to get you into this.
Yeah. So I'll search something else. Like you could search iPhone. And so they have all these vectors as well as more realistic photos of iPhones. Let's say I'm going to use this one. Again, I'm just going to add it to my infographic library. And then depending on your internet connection, it should load. It might be a little slow. Okay, so then once you have a bunch of assets that you want in your infographic, all you have to do is literally click and drag it onto your artboard. And now I have this person icon in my artboard. So I can drag the iPhone in. You know, maybe I'm making some sort of data about how many people have iPhones versus Android or something. Then I can pull my person, copy him a bunch of times, you know, and whatever data you have, you can represent that way. Is everyone able to do that? We'll let you move your asset. So you want to use the selection tool to select. It's they're each their own vector file. And if you go towards the corners, you get a diagonal arrow. And remember, you can hold down Shift to keep it proportional and resize your asset. And then you can use the selection tool to move it around the artboard. Yeah, so if you select the vector and you just hit Command C and Command V, that'll paste another copy of it. Or you can go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste.
Is there a way to get rid of
All the dots.
When you click on it, if it's small, like all the blue dots?
No, I mean, it's just showing you all the path points on it. I mean, if you click out of it, you can get rid of the dots. But when you're working on a file, it'll show all the path points. Yeah. So everyone has a graphic in their artboard? Yeah. So that's what I would recommend for shapes and icons, is just pulling from here. We don't expect you guys to draw every single little thing. If we look back at these examples, so like you could go ahead and search these kind of icons and just pull all of them in. For those who want to create more advanced stuff, in this creating shapes and icons tutorial, I go over how to create a couple icons like a water droplet or a coffee cup or a sun. So that's on the website. I'm not going to cover it today, I don't think, just because we don't have a lot of time. But if there is time at the end, we can cover a little bit of it. It's using kind of the same techniques we used last week, of using the Pathfinder to combine shapes or subtract shapes or things like that. Cool. Does anyone have any questions about this? No? Okay. And then the other thing that Courtney showed yesterday was our Pinterest. There are a couple assets that you can pull. So some of them have like a big template of a bunch. It's kind of like a template that gives you all these pie charts and all these icons that you can use for free. So feel free to explore the board and find, but you can also just search like free infographic elements. And you'll probably find a bunch of free vector templates. Just you want to make sure you're using them in Illustrator. So I'll show you how to download one and use it. So again, this is also all in the tutorial. So I'm going to download this one from FreePick. So like it gives you all of these elements and graphs that you can just pull and use right into your infographic. So a lot of them you'll find it's just a download here and it's a zip file. If you guys want to download it with me, you can. Just go ahead and go into annenbergdl.org and then go to our ASCJ 200 collection and into Shapes and Icons tutorial. And if you scroll down past this Creative Cloud stuff, I'm downloading this FreePick file from this link. So once you download that file, it gives you this folder called Infographic Elements. A lot of them will give you an AI file and an EPS file. Just open the AI file, that's going to be the Illustrator file. It might tell you that the fonts are not there, that's fine. So now you get this huge artboard with a bunch of vectors inside of it. So if I go ahead and zoom in, you'll see that all of these are vector elements that I can use myself. So a lot of times they're all grouped together, so you'll notice if I click on this laptop, it groups all of these together. So remember, we go to Object, Ungroup, so that when I select it, it ungroups it so I can select each element. So again, they've grouped all of these together. So let's say I just want this laptop icon. I'll just, again, Object, Ungroup. And then I can copy this, so Command-C, and then I can go ahead and paste it onto my own artboard, right? And I can change the color of this to whatever I want. Let's say I want it to be green.
You change the color of the icon?
Yeah, same. This is the same exact thing. You could change this to whatever color you want. Same with the person that you dragged in. Same with whatever vector file that you've brought in.
Mine isn't giving me the option to change the color. Like when I click on that, it just gives me no color.
Doesn't give you a color? Here, I'll come around and look.
It's not bad.
Was everyone able to open this file and grab an asset from it? Yeah. So at the very end of this article, at the link, there is a download here free infographic pack. Just click on that link. So for any free infographic elements that you find, it'll most likely be a zip file that you download. And then you'll get these AI and EPS files. So like here they have a bunch of people and girls. I could pull that. So again, I'm going to object ungroup it. Try and grab it again. It's still grouped with all of that stuff. Or let's say I want all of that. I'm going to edit, copy, edit, paste. And now I have this in my folder, right? And I can go ahead and object ungroup it. Object ungroup that. And I could add more people as needed, right? Let's say I need more than 70%. So I'm going to add a bunch of more people, right? And then customize it however I need it to be for my infographic. And go in here and change the type. Just grab the type tool and change it to, whatever, 40%. Does anyone have any questions about that? It's pretty easy. You're literally just going to be copying and pasting shapes and icons or dragging in from your library. And then I'll re-show you guys the align tools because I think that'd be very helpful for you. So like look here, I've like copy and pasted all of them, but they're not all aligned straight, right? So what I can do is I can use the selection tool to grab all of them. Or let me grab all the guys. And then you get this panel up here. If your window is smaller, remember it might just say align. And all you have to do is click align and you'll see this panel. If you don't see any of that, you can also open up the align panel. So you can go to window align. It'll give you this little box. And so what this does, it allows you to center objects, either align them all left, align them all right, center them horizontally and vertically. So I want them to all align, horizontally, but it's going to vertical align the center. So if I click this, notice how they all line up again. So if I undo that, I click that and it lines them all up. And now they're all distributedly, not correct. So you can use distribute objects here. So if you can see, the little icons kind of show you what it's going to do. So this is going to distribute them evenly. So if I click that button, now they're all spaced evenly. So if I undo that, see how when I click it, it shifts all of them so that it's mathematically equal. So that's going to help you guys a lot, especially when you're messing with these graphs and all these elements. Do you guys have questions about that? Did everyone get that? Yeah.
So when I do the selection tool to make a box around them, the whole art thing just shifts with it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. So when you want to make sure your align to is set to align to selection.
I guess for example, just to even make the box around the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole graphic. Yeah.
Oh, over here?
Yeah. Or just when you want to make a box around the people, when I do the selection tool, so I do that, it drags the whole infographic instead of just making a box.
Instead of just making the box. Oh, okay. I see. You're doing this. You're trying to click and then it's dragging this out. Yeah. Okay. So basically what's happening is there's another element in the background that you're moving. So you can move it out of the way and then drag and select over the people. Or you can lock this element, but maybe that's a little more complicated. Just you could just move it out of the way. It's just the background element that they've created that you're dragging with it. Do you guys have any questions about any of that I just showed? Okay, does anyone have questions about artboard sizing? No, does that make sense to you guys? Because you might not know what size you need your infographic to be when you first start. So that's just how you would adjust later on. Because I think a lot of people, when they're creating infographics, they're like, oh, I know it's going to be horizontal, but I don't know how wide it needs to be because I don't know how much data I need to fit in. Cool. And then I was just going to go over a couple places to find examples. So a lot of the ones that I found that I showed you guys yesterday are from Good Magazine. They have just a whole section on infographics. So this is a good source. Visually is another source that aggregates a bunch of infographics. So if you guys want to get inspiration in terms of types of graphs or how to tell a story, these are good places to go. Someone had mentioned Adweek does a bunch of infographics. So those are all here. And I can add that to the Google Sheet so you guys have these as reference. And then another tool to use is Adobe Color. It's color.adobe.com. I know we mentioned briefly one time that there's an app that's called Adobe Capture. I think it might be iPhone only. Is it Android now? Okay. Well, if you have an iPhone, there is an Adobe Capture app. And basically what it does, it allows you to capture a color palette of anything that you see. So as Allison was saying, like everything that you do should be intentional in terms of design. So you might want to also think about color and what you're evoking. And so I use Adobe Color a lot. You can create your own themes. Like let's say you want this to have a central blue color or whatever. Then you can make something that's complementary to that color. You can play around with this color wheel using hex codes. And then there's also, you can also explore other people's themes. So like other people have made color palettes and you could even search, like let's say I want a nautical theme. I can search and see what other people have created. If the internet will work. Yeah. So like other people have created these and called them nautical theme, right? And I can go ahead and save this color theme and I can save it to my library. So let's say I'm going to save it to my infographic library. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And then just like in the assets, this should update. It'll take a sec to sync. It'll show up with a color palette here and then you can use it the whole time that you're working. So I'll show you, I have some old. So like I chose these colors for a kit that I was working on. So now anytime I select an element, I can change it to that color. I can change all of these guys to a purple, and I can keep consistent with my color palette. That way you don't have to keep going using the eyedropper tool to grab a color. You don't have to go into the box and find the hex code and make this the same hex code color. Instead, all you have to do is literally click your object and select a color from your palette over here. So yeah, now this color palette has showed up over here. So you'll get color themes in your libraries. And so all you have to do is log in from coloradobe.com and log into your Creative Cloud account. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. Yeah. So you can choose a theme that you find and just save it, or you can create your own theme. So let's say I like this theme. I can save it, and I can name it whatever I want. You know, like I don't know. This is not a very pretty color, blue and browns. And then I can choose which library I save it to. So if I choose Infographic, I'll hit save, and then that color theme will show up underneath libraries, versus like taking someone else's theme.
So like let's say you have 3 separate people, if you group them together, could you make them move all together?
Move all together. Yes. Yeah. So now that I've evenly distributed all of these guys, now what I would want to do is I would want to select all of them and object group them back together. So now when I move the element, they all move together. And when you're done with the graph, I would also group the whole graph together, right? because then if I'm working with all this data and I'm moving it all around, it can move as one object. And then it makes it easy to navigate your artboard. And then another tool that I would recommend you guys using is, remember we used guides last time when we were creating those charts. So if you don't have your rulers open, you just want to go to View, Rulers, and Show Rulers. But you can use this to help you kind of map out how you want your artboard to look. So you can split up your sections however you want. But guides are really helpful in terms of gridding out and a layout. You can also bring in a grid. So under View and Show Grid, you can get something like this over your artboard to give you kind of square box out of each element you want to put in. You can also just hide grid. So those are all easy things and I can show you how to bring in. So I took that screenshot of that infogram thing right earlier. I can actually just literally drag it right into my artboard. Or you can go File, Place. Just like you did in Photoshop, I think. And then this is just an element that moves that I can just put straight into my infographic. No, so this is basically just an image. One other thing you guys could do is ImageTrace. So if I had a world map, this gets a little tricky because you'd have to have, well, maybe this one will work. So I could actually grab something like this. Oops. Save as. So I could grab this and I could bring it in. Oh, this is actually an SVG. Well, let's say this was just a photo image of the world. You can go ahead and, since this is an SVG, I can't do it. Hold on. Is this a photo? The image. There we go. So if I'm bringing in a photo, you can actually image trace a photo. So with the object selected, you'll get an option that says image trace. And then you'll want to set, so right now it's set to black and white. Let's see. So I'm going to do 3 colors. So what it does is it turns the photo into a vector image. So it's going to try and outline it with points and paths based off what it's doing. So if we look in now, it's kind of smoothed everything out to outline it. So, and then I can go ahead and also ignore white. And so what that would do is get rid of the background, so it's just a vector file. So in theory, you could also do this with Infogram. Once you're done with something, you have to expand it. So once I've expanded it, now you can see the image. It was a PNG, but now it's a vector file that has points and paths that have outlined the whole thing. So now I could use this map in my infographic. And you'll notice that because I ignored white, it has no background. So I can actually put like a color behind it. So what you could do in theory, let's see, is image trace this. So it's automatically set to black and white, but you might want to, so if you set it to 6 colors, it's going to turn it into a vector. And you can change the amount of colors that it recognizes. Let's say that's fine. I'll go ahead and ignore white. And then I'll expand it and object ungroup it. So this isn't perfect, but now I can pull each of the elements. See how it kind of grabs some other stuff as well? It's just not foolproof, but it's something you can do. Does that answer your question? Kind of. Yeah. So I mean, you guys could bring in other photos as well and image trace them. Obviously, it doesn't work as well with photographs because it's just going to make it, fleshed out to turn it into a vector. You guys have any other questions? No? Should I go over how to create shapes? Okay, cool. So in that same Google Drive folder that we were using earlier, there's also a shape building AI file. So if you guys want to open up that, I'll show you a little more how to customize for those who are interested. So these are the 3 icons that I showed you guys how to create. Is everyone able to get that file open? Mm-hmm. So the first one we're going to create is super simple. It's just a raindrop. So the only reason you would maybe want to create icons is if you want a consistent look. Because when you're pulling assets from the Creative Cloud assets, they're not all going to be very similar styles. These are kind of different styles than these people. So if you want a consistent look, that's why you might create icons. But you can probably find stuff that works from the Creative Cloud and from those free elements. Okay, so to create a raindrop, you're going to go over here to the shape tool and get the ellipse tool. Right, so then I'm going to click and drag a circle. Remember, we're going to hold down Shift to keep it proportional. Then I'm going to let go of the mouse before I let go of Shift. And I'm going to give it a blue fill and no stroke, right? So if I select the circle, you'll notice it's made up of 4 points and then these curved lines. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool. So what this allows you to do, remember, is to select a point within the path. So I'm going to select the top point of the circle. I'm going to convert this instead of from a curve point to a anchor, a pointed point. So that's right here. So I'm going to convert, and it's going to change it to a point. So now I'm going to use Shift and the up arrow. It's at the very top, up here. And then if you hold down Shift and the up arrow, I'm going to keep hitting the up arrow until it bumps it up. And then it's a drop. So everyone able to do that? Next, we're going to make a coffee cup. So using, again, the ellipse tool, right? I'm going to click and drag and draw an oval. So I'm not going to hold down Shift because I'm going to distort the circle so that it's an oval. So once I have an oval, I'm going to change it to a dark brown, right? For the cup. Has everyone got that far? And now I'm going to create a rectangle. So what I'm basically going to do is put a rectangle up here and a rectangle down here and subtract the shapes so that I get a cup. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So go back over here to the shape tool and select the rectangle tool. I'm going to click and drag and create a rectangle on the first half of the oval. I'm going to change that color so you can see that better. So basically this rectangle is just laying on top of the first half of the oval. Now I'm going to open up that Pathfinder tool again. So remember Window, Pathfinder. You get this little shape modes and Pathfinder box. I'm going to click and drag and select both. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose minus front, which is the second icon under shape modes. So when I click that, it literally subtracts that top object from the bottom oval. So now we have that top of the cup, right? So you're just going to use the selection tool to click and drag over both, and then choose the second shape mode to minus front. So I'm literally going to do the same exact thing for the bottom. So I'm going to draw a rectangle down here. I'm going to adjust it so, let me give it a different color so it's easier to see. So I'm going to have my cup. So here you can kind of adjust the rectangle down further, however big you want your cup to be. And then you'll select both of the objects again, and then minus front. So now I have the body of my cup. Does that make sense, everyone? I can select it and I can bring it in too if I want. Make it more.
Wait, which shape
Same, minus front. So you just want to think about what you want to be subtracted. So whatever is on top is what's going to get subtracted from what's on bottom. So now we'll go back to the ellipse tool. So I'm going to click and draw. I'm going to click and draw a handle. So I'm going to hold shift again, right? So I'm going to click and drag right near the body and then let go. This window? Yeah, it's window Pathfinder. So opening up for you. I'll have them. So when you click and drag, you'll create a circle. She needs help opening the Pathfinder. I want it to be a stroke with that color, not a fill, right? So there's actually this little handy, right here where there's the stroke and the fill, there's this handy like curved one, and that actually just switches. So now it's no fill, and now it's the stroke of the brown. And I'll increase the stroke so you can see it. Does that make sense? This just flips what you have selected for the stroke and the fill. So like, look, if I flip it back, it just flips it to the fill. And then give it whatever stroke you want so that it's visible. So I might bring in the body of the cup a little more. So you always click it and drag it in. And now you have to create the foam, right? So basically what this is a bunch of overlapping circles. So I'm going to go back to the ellipse tool. Zoom in. And I'm going to click and drag a decent sized circle, right? And I'm going to give it a lighter brown fill. Doesn't matter what color you guys choose. And then remember what happens when I click on an object and I hold down Alt. Does anyone remember? No? Okay, so what it does is it's going to copy that element, and then wherever I drag it to and let go of, it's going to move that copy of that element to that spot. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt, click and drag it over, let go of the mouse. It literally just creates a copy over it, right? I'm going to hold down Alt and drag and then let go. And then that creates. So I'm just holding down Alt and I'm clicking and dragging to the right. So I'm just I want a copy of this object but moved over here. So I'm going to do that again. Oops. Yeah. So let's say I want 5 up here, and then I'm going to Alt. So I'm going to Alt and drag, and I'm going to bring it all the way over here, so that it's like that. And then I'm going to keep doing that until I've got a foam I like. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Like, your circles can be more, whatever, however you want. You just want them all overlapping. Right? However many you want. So, and then once you have, something you like, you can click all of them. So, using the selection tool, click and drag over all of them. And then this time we're going to use the Unite tool. So it's the first one in the shape modes. So watch what happens to all my points and paths when I hit Unite. So now it's treating it as one object and outlining all of the circles as one. So now when I move this around, it's one object. Right? So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the drop. I want to convert one of the points into an anchor point so that it's a little peak for the coffee. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the direct selection tool, and I'm going to select, let's say I want this one.
Where's Unite?
Where's what? Unite. It's the first one in the shape modes. So you select a top point that is a curve point and you convert it to a anchor point. And then go up. And then just shift. Remember holding shift and hit the up key a few times until it looks how you want it to look. So now I have a little peak for my coffee. So now I want it to be in my coffee, right? In my coffee cup. But you'll notice that when I drag it into my coffee cup, it's actually laying on top of my coffee cup. And the reason for that is whenever you create a new object, it's always going to be a layer on top of the objects you created before. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit first. I'm going to use the selection tool to drag it a little bigger so it fits better in the cup. So that's where I want it, but I want it behind the coffee cup, right? So in Illustrator, you can arrange objects. So I'm going to select this object, go to Object, Arrange, and Send to Back. And now it's behind my coffee cup. So now I have foam inside of my cup. And again, I would group this as one object, so Object Group. So now when I drag this around, it's one coffee cup. Does everyone get that? So if you guys, want help with creating icons, there's all of our students are at the desk and they can help you using simple things like this. So you just want to think about using these simple shapes, a circle, rectangles, triangles, how you can manipulate those shapes into icons for yourself. You can create iPhones. If I was thinking about an iPhone, I would be like, oh, well, I need a rounded rectangle tool, and then I would use a rectangle, right? I have the rounded rectangle tool, a rectangle. Here's a circle. Here's another circle. Here's a line. You can just think about how easy something like that could be to create is just using all of these shapes and the line segment tool. So the last one is a sun. So we're going to go ahead and open the ellipse tool. 5 minutes left. This one's pretty quick. I think I can do it. Okay, so click and drag, holding down shift again, right, to create a circle. Remember, let go of the mouse before you let go of shift. Change the color of this to a yellow. I'm going to close the Pathfinder tool because we don't need it for this. So now that you have a circle, you're going to want to create a line, right? So remember, if you have smart guides on, they're really helpful. So I can go from, if I hover over the center, it'll kind of create a line to show me that I'm coming from the center.
How do you put the smart guides?
If you don't have them on, you should have to go to View Smart Guides, and there should be a check mark next to it. My guides are purple, but yours might be green, or they might be another color. If you don't see the guides, that's fine. Just go ahead and above the sun, hold down shift and click and drag up to create a ray. And then give it a yellow stroke. And I'm going to bump it up to 7 or 8. Right? This is the line segment tool. So you're going to use this line segment tool right here. So you're going to click and drag while holding shift going up to create a ray. And then we're going to give it a cap stroke, right? So a rounded cap. So remember, you click on stroke to do that and change it right here to a round cap. If you're not sure if it's in the center, remember you can use the align panel here. So what I would do is I would select both objects and I would use this align to align them straight. So mine's aligned, but if it wasn't aligned, like you just created the ray over here and you align it, then it'll shift it together. Okay, and now I'm going to bring that down a little. Okay, so now we're going to use the rotate tool just like we did for the charts. So you're going to select the line, click on the rotate tool. So remember, it's that circle with the arrow. And then we're going to option click the center of the circle, because I want this line to rotate around the center of that circle, right? And you just want something that's divisible by 360, right? So I'm going to do 30 degrees. So I'll type in 30 in the angle. Remember, I'll hit tab, and I'll want to check mark preview. So it's moving that line 30 degrees, right? So then you just hit copy. So now it's copied that line and moved it 30 degrees. And then I'm going to hit Command D over and over again until I get fully around the circle. On a PC, I think it's Control D. And then now you have rays around the sun. So you can do something similar, like if you were creating a gear, you could draw a circle and use rectangles. Let's see that. You know, you could create a rectangle. I'm going to do this really fast. Option, click the center of the circle, move it 30 degrees, and then you have a gear, right? So, and then in that case, you might want to combine it, so you could use the Pathfinder panel to unite it, and then you have a gear, and I might make that gray, right? So you guys can think about how you can use these different methods to create different things. Okay, we've hit time. Yeah. Yeah, so remember the desk is open Monday through Thursday 9 to 10 and Friday 9 to 5. And we have lots of the kids are really good in Illustrator.
Yeah. So excited to see you.